is your regular program, Business and Economy, designed to improving our horizon on economic sustainability and the issues around it. I am ILE EMEJE, your host. Economic sustainability is the priority of all governments across the world, including all efforts to strengthen the various reforms for the well-being of the citizens. Globally, effective achievements of government programs is enough without the concerted effort of the Central Bank of Nigeria due to its regulatory powers to ensuring financial system stability. In Nigeria, it is no longer news that many experts have expressed concern on all having a divided opinion on economic performance for year 2025, considering the major macroeconomic parameter stability and a persistent cost of living crisis. While some are of the opinion that major reforms indicate statistical success, many citizens view the year 2025 as a year with some level of economic hardship. Meanwhile, in the country, some experts have also expressed worries that the implementation of Central Bank of Nigeria's reform, CBN reforms, faced significant internal and external hurdles, primarily driven by persistent inflation and the transitional pains of banking sector recapitalization. And so, on this edition of your program, Professor of Development Economic, Professor Ken Ife will be joining me to discuss the issues around the economic performance for year 2025 immediately after the promo and the way forward. Stay with us.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we will realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
So glad to have you join us in this interesting episode of your program, Business and Economy. And our guest is a professor of development economics, and he is Professor Ken Ife. And we'll be looking through the 2025 economic performance and the CBN initiative, the Central Bank of Nigeria's initiative. What to expect in year 2026. Prof, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's take a look at the economic performance of year 2025. It's no longer news that a lot of analysts are divided over their belief and their perception for year 2025's economic performance. And for you, as a professor of development economics, what do you see, or what can you say about the performance of year 2025, the economic performance generally?
First of all, you have to divide these up. That's why periods are divided, because there is no single item called good performance or bad performance.
Okay.
We have one, the macroeconomic area, which is overview of the economy. Then you have the micro finance, sectoral view. When you look at agriculture, oil, banking, all that, you are looking at sectors. And the experience is very considerably. There's a consensus that in terms of macroeconomy, we've done well. But there is also big evidence that in the grassroots, that is, employment is getting worse, the poverty is getting worse, cost of living is very, very high. Those ones, there are no doubt about those. So it's difficult to find somebody that will say, oh, it's all good, or say it's all bad. So we have to, the devil is in the detail.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look at the macroeconomic framework and achievements there, you look at the fiscal side, you look at the monetary side, there's also trade, investment, all these other areas. But the one that speaks volume in terms of achievement is the central bank work. The central bank, central bank, you mentioned one of their mandates. There are two core mandates. One is price stability, and the other one is financial system stability. Everybody agrees that the financial systems are actually doing well because they are healthy. There are indices to measure their health. One of those indices is the non-performing loans, which prudential guidelines put at 5%. All of them are around that. There's also capital adequacy ratio, which is around 15%, 10% for domestic and 15% for those who are abroad. And they're all fairly okay. There's no major stress that is hitting the entire banking sector. So they are fairly stable. The area where there are still some concern is on the price stability. Okay. Because in price, there are so many things that are price. One, inflation is price. Interest rate is price. Forex exchange rate is price. So some of them, they've achieved stability. For example, in exchange rates, is stable. Although there was a devaluation as soon as we were entering into the 2023, ending 2024, our currency was devalued, heavily devalued, by even almost 200%. But this was because the central bank, they were in the process of allowing markets to dictate the price of Forex, but also price discovery to find out more about that. So the price went down. It even went down to 2,000 naira to $1. Came back to 1,500 to 4,430 and stayed stable. Now that stability is important because that's what investors look at. The investors are not really concerned about exactly where your currency is. Okay. But are you going to keep steady there so that they can make investment decisions? And those who are bringing portfolio investment to make interest and that, they want to be sure when they bring it in, after 1 year, when they want to take it out, that the thing is still stable so they can take out their money. So that's why stability of the Forex is very, very important. So it's crucial to drawing, attracting dollar into the system, but also in keeping them, and then also in sending signals to those who want to invest that you can assume that this will be steady for quite some time. So that's very important. But it hasn't quite worked for the other price. The monetary policy rate has been steady at 27.5, dropped to 27, might drop down a little bit more, but it's fairly, it's high, but it's fairly stable. Now again, that's very important because the signal it sends to those who want to invest is that I'm going to hold this rate for some time to continue to encourage you to cream the difference. Because people borrow money at 3 or 4% overseas and they come here to buy instruments at 18%. So they're already making money, but they want to know how long can we make this money and are you going to be there for me to take back my profit, something like that. But the one that was a bit shaky was the inflation. The inflation went as high as 35%, 34%, After the rebasing, it started coming down to the 24 then, and we are seeing that come down to about 15, something like that. So, yes, it's coming down, but is it going to be able to keep coming down or hold on, whatever?
That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. So that is the element of price stability that is a little bit shaky, but it is showing positive results, and that is going to also drag the others to come down a bit more. Now you move away from that and look at the governance side of the central bank. Now there's a lot of steps that they have taken to be able to achieve those progress. They have to do a lot of things. They have to hunt down speculation in our economy, because it's the speculation that was dollarizing our economy, and then betting on continuous slide on our currency. So those people were, and then they were making profit because they were having also a quick, buy today, buy back, all kinds of things. They were doing all that stuff. So now when the money got steady, there's no longer incentive for them to do, those arbitrage opportunities disappeared. And also, remember, people were all criticizing central bank looking for dollars. Now they don't go there anymore because they now see that sometimes it's even cheaper to buy from black market
than going to
than go there. Why do you want to go there and wait for 3 months or 6 months and then they'll scrutinize you, everything, this and that. So people are taking a walk and then going to the market to buy from the market. So which is good, because all that arbitrage and multiple ways were coming from people focusing on targeting central bank, and then politicians were asking for money, people were asking for money, all those things have waded the way. So there's a big success. Then also, they also looked at liquidity wherever they could find them. Luckily, the revenues from MMPC are passing through central bank now, unlike before, because that was the cause of the real problem we had in the last regime. Now they are getting through, so they are beginning to get something. Excuse me. And it's also helping accretion to the reserves. You can see our reserves have moved from 33 billion to now 40-something billion, 45 billion.
Yeah.
And they already projected in their new plan, forecast for 2026, that it can actually come to 51 billion, which is good news. So all of that area. Then I think another interesting thing we did was, if you remember, previous regime excluded 3,000 BDC operators. They brought them back. Because if you really want to control that platform, you have to be inclusive. We bring them under regulation, and they begin to control them, exercise control. So they did that, and then they had Forex Code, which was a very major one that enabled them to bring transparency to all that whole people playing in the foreign exchange market. So quite a lot of measures, and many more are coming. Then on the fiscal side, we have a lot of challenges on the fiscal side, not least the borrowing. The borrowing has gone, has gone above our expected limit. But it's not that bad if only that borrowing can go to productive activity. That's the problem. When we borrow, I want to give you an example. If the government wants to work with private sector to bring in infrastructure investment of $100 billion, all that the government needs to do is to raise 15% of that money, which is $15 billion. Now, the issue is this. Are we in a position where the money we are raising, which is even more than that $15 billion, are you in a position where that money could attract the other 85 billion to make it 100 billion? The answer is no. It makes it no, because if you are borrowing responsibly, that is in productive activity and an infrastructure, important infrastructure that generates economic activity, or infrastructure that connects industrial corridor, commercial corridor, residential corridors, and then capable of attracting private sector to partner with you, then the money you are looking for will come. The investment you are looking for, you can't get from that. They will come because they are coming in on the back of economic activities. So if you went to China to give you a loan of 50 billion, they want to know what you are going to spend that money on, because they will want to also send in some of their people to be involved in doing that construction. And if you go to these Arab banks, Jais Bank and all these Sukuk Bank, they want to see their signboard on the project. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying in effect, is that the not so extremely responsible borrowing that does not fully reflect on productive activity, that is capable of attracting private investors and also bringing in major investment. That is why we are having debt crisis. Because when you borrow money for a purpose, it is capable of repaying this. So you borrow more. As you repay, you borrow more. You are not going to have a case where your debt service is half of your entire revenue. Or even, not even half. It was 90% of the revenue, 95% of the revenue before. Now it's coming down to, it becomes a shock to you that you are having repayment challenge because what you are doing is not productive. Do you understand? Because if what you are doing is using that money for is productive, it will generate revenue for you. So you can only talk about topping up. But the case is that we are doing things, we are building some roads that lead to no man's land. We are doing some, we are carrying borrowing money and we're using it to share it to people. The law doesn't allow you to do that. FRA, Fiscal Regulation 2000, doesn't allow you to borrow money to go and distribute to people. It doesn't allow you to borrow money to pay salaries. It doesn't. So even if you are borrowing money to pay salaries, then the interest on it will have to be coming. So you will never be able to break even. It's going to get worse. That's the point. And that's the only area where I don't find it very comfortable with the government. Otherwise, most things government is doing, many ministers are doing fantastic jobs. But when it comes to budgeting, that was a disgrace. And when it comes to the integrity of the loan, they don't follow the law. The law says you must borrow only for capital expenditure and human resource development. And in capital expenditure, we know is infrastructure and productive activities. The human resource we know is health, education, employment, self-employment, enterprise. That's fine. Nothing again. You don't tell you to borrow to pay salaries or to share to people. But no. Use your own money. Use your own internal generated revenue to do as you like. If World Bank is giving you loan, tell them, say, no, the loan is not going to be shared to people. Give me your grant. You can share that to people. And the World Bank has come round in their third quarter report to say, expand the safety net, then use your own internal generated revenue. So that is the only thing that I disagree with government on. Because you're talking about future generation. You are putting debt that need children that don't even have jobs. How are they going to get the tax? They never will repay this debt. So that is the challenge in the overall macroeconomic framework and in the 2025 performance. We started well at the beginning of 2025. The whole of 2025 is the year of consolidation of many of the things, measures and reforms that we are taking, including the tax reform that kicked in January this year.
Yeah.
But the whole 2025 ended in fiasco because of the budget nonsense. It ended in fiasco. And it's going to get worse in the next 9 months because the assumptions that created that trouble is even going to get worse this year. The budget difference, the budget benchmark, all the things that, and then how they handle the payment of people. When you created a bogus budget, you very say to people, there's going to be a scramble. We haven't got the money, so everybody's scrambling to get paid. And who gets paid is somebody who says, oh, I'm from the presidency, who gets paid. Then you have what you call a pecking order. The first money that must be paid is first line charge. First line charge is your debt. You have to pay that. If you don't pay that, rating agencies will mark you down. The next one is salaries. We pay salaries because otherwise workers are going to be out on strike. Then pension, then defense and security, you're going to pay that because it's happening everywhere. Then suddenly you find out by December, 100% of the recurrent expenditures have all been met, but capital, nothing. Or you say, okay, let's extend to March to June to December. You've overrun the next year's budget. 25 budget is overrun. Then you're moving into 2026. So what was that? They're taking us 12 years back. And then the budget cannot do budget performance every quarter by law. so that the people who are going to start budgeting in September, you see the performance in the first, second quarter. Nothing. And then you haven't issued budget circular so that they start preparing budget in September, which is in the end of December. That you can't come on. We've gone past this for many, many years. Even the Buhari regime didn't even experience this. It was even much before then. So why is somebody driving us back?
Talking about the fiscal side of the whole thing, you made emphasis on budget implementation, performance, borrowing, and the rest of them. But again, all of us are aware that you mentioned something. One of the major debates of year 2025 is about tax reforms.
Yes.
From government side, we are expecting, can I say, huge revenue generation from the tax reform. So don't you think that
the chairman of the tax reform act, Professor, has actually made a point that this tax reform is not primarily just to generate revenue. It's not the primary purpose. The primary purpose is to have a progressive taxation system.
Harmonization.
That is equitable, to harmonize the various listings. And for example, what we had for more than 60, 70 years is a tax system that taxes poverty, that taxes investment. If you go around the world, you tax people's profit. You don't tax people's turnover. You don't tax people's investment. Somebody bring money to invest, you tax it. What are you doing? Then they won't come back. They won't put the investment. So in the investment, you have to cultivate. So that's one. Number two is there were about 92, 70, 62 different taxes. But only 6 of those taxes are giving government 95% of their revenue. So what the hell are you doing with all the other ones? It's red tape. You are killing businesses. You are criticizing them, checking them one state to another state, carrying your thing. They are taxing you. They are not allowing business to grow. They are taxing the golden goose. So they have to streamline those and reduce them to one. Then also, even in the other sector, you have when it comes to royalties and stuff, they go and pay to the PRC or so it used to be MMPs or then the other one, company income tax, they pay to non-revenue. They streamline that, so Nigerian Revenue Service collects everything. So you have a single point of collection. Yeah. It's easier to manage, and they remove a lot of losses, a lot of leakages. So wherever you go, and then critical focus on the consumer, because if you look at GDP, there are 4 pillars of GDP. There is household consumption, which is 78% to 80% of GDP. So they came to that household and said, what can we do to reduce their tax burden? They said, okay, go to consumption tax. They removed tax on health, on education, tax on fuel, tax on food. They removed all that. The effect of removing all those, even though people are paid very little, is that they can now conserve more of their revenue. And then when you conserve that, they are better able to meet some of their expenditure, even though food is 70% of their expenditure. But they can also buy more output, buy more products. That is increasing GDP, because when you spend more, aggregate consumption goes up. Now, they move to the next group, which is the companies, industry investment, where SMEs, MSMEs. Then they say, look, you guys, it's only after 25 million that you start paying tax. I'm going to move it to 50 million, so that you can stop a lot of harassment on accounting for that, this and that. You focus on your business. So they keep a lot more money to themselves. They can stop more job losses. They can employ more people. They can produce more. Aggregate output goes up. GDP goes up. The other 3 components, the other 2 components are balance of payment, which is positive. We are getting a huge balance from negative to positive 6.8 trillion naira for the balance of trade, and 5-point-something trillion balance of payment dollars. So they are positive, so GDP is going up. Then final one is government consumption, which is about less than 10%. So they always go up because they always borrow money here and there. They go up. So in all probability, our GDP will be going up this year. The individuals you are mentioning, our community people, they will get a little bit more. They can trap down some more of their revenue. Then the small businesses can get more. And then there are some exemptions. There are some leakages that they blocked. For example, waiver being given to even half of government revenue used to go to waiver. They streamlined that. So it's focused on real sector that is delivering. Not anybody who wants to do one small thing, they'll come and give you waiver. And so on and so forth. Many things in that bill. VAT sharing, government federal government gave away 5% of their 15% in favor of state government and all that. So there are some good wills there, but there's nothing you do that everybody will agree to. Everybody will have different views. But you look at generally, take section by section. There are people that benefited. Now, if you come to sectors, I rather say the fiscal side, look at oil. We have tremendous progress in oil because the refining grew by 19%. In the second quarter, crude production grew by 20%. In the third quarter, it grew by 5%. These are areas that used to be minus 20. They are not getting growth. Now, why it is not too significant is because the contribution of oil to GDP is only 4.44%. There is growth there, but it's not too significant because their weight is small. So the one that is very significant is the service sector. The service sector is 53% of the GDP. So just one small 1% increase there is pronounced. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Agriculture has tried. Agriculture in the first quarter was 0.07. It was zero. And I was on a shouting match in all the TV stations. The second quarter, it came down to 2.8. Third quarter, it came to 3 points. So the first time it has exceeded population growth rate. So that was good news. And agriculture delivered because they focused on year-round farming. They did dry season farming. They focused on homestead farming. Put cement bag, plant yam in the cassava there, plant. So it's no longer just this long. So every day the story that they can't go to farm because of they can't. They will do other things. So those other things make a big difference. Of course, they may have imported something, maybe right. People are complaining because they may have imported some rice. But I can tell you, I'm in cassava. Now, cassava, we are selling bag of garri, we process 60,000 naira, 50 kg bag. But last month, 20,000 or 70,000. So I suffered. Then the prices came down.
Okay, so now looking at it from the sectorial side, you spoke about the oil and gas sector, and you have emphasized that there was a lot of progress in that sector. But the question to ask again is, how impactful is this progress or this growth?
Oh, let me tell you, this is very impactful. Let me tell you this.
Impactful.
The reason why the macroeconomic parameters, high GDP, high this, high that, all that, low inflation, all that, the reason why they are not affecting employment and affecting poverty and is because there isn't production and productivity in our economy. So when the likes of Dangote came in to start bringing refining activity, and refining went from minus when NNPC was in control to plus 19%. All those dead refineries were simply sucking away cash from the economy. They have taken us $13.5 billion trying to repair these refineries over the last 10 years, and they're not working. But now that Dangote has come in, you've seen new energy in that sector. You've seen refining capacity. It's doing 700,000 barrels a day. Now it's going to go in the next 2 years to 1.4. Another group is doing $50 billion investment in refinery in Ondo State. Bua is doing 200,000 barrels in Akwa Ibom. Some other guy is doing refinery in Lagos, 3 million refineries. Nigeria is emerging as a refining hub for Africa. So even the crude you are doing 1.8, you are not going to have enough to meet the demand of these people that are coming in. Because they need about 3 million barrels a day. You're never going to produce all that. But whatever they produce are heading out to international market. And that has led the way, because he's making $6.4 billion just from 2 items, polypropylene and fertilizer. Those those two. And he reckons that he's going to get a turnover of about $100 billion in the next few years. Then he's going to capital markets. Now let me tell you what will happen to capital market. 2 days ago, capital market clocked 100 trillion capitalization. When then the entered, it will move from 200 billion to 200 billion.
All things being equal.
It will double. It will exceed it. Because the people that, my children in London, 6 of my children, they are begging me that when is this man going to bring that? They want to buy equity. They want to buy share in his company. My children in London are phoning me and asking me. It just tells you the interest this bank, Fidelity just went in only one day. They oversold and they ran away. Then they only reach one day. But the man is good, because he says, yeah, I want to do 10%. But if Nigerians want to buy, I want every Nigerian to buy, he's prepared to let it go. In other words, to go up to maybe 30%, 40%, he doesn't care, provided.
When you say every Nigeria, the ordinary people or the high and mighty?
No, well, we always have that. We've had the diaspora bond some years ago. We made all the noise, I thought all our diaspora would buy. When the bond I didn't see any diaspora that bought anything.
How we share this?
Yeah. Don't worry.
We'll not go the same way.
Don't worry, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's look at the agricultural sector. Yes, it's a fact that the agricultural sector improved in year 2025, but a lot of people attributed this growth to harvest season. So what is the hope or the assurance that
there is good weather first?
This was
good weather, because we didn't have as much of the flooding and all that stuff. That's
a factor.
The weather was good, but then there was a determined Minister of Agriculture. I worked with him too. He was determined that even as the tractors were not released yet, but a lot of seeds were bought and given to farmers. A lot of homestead farming, dry season preparations for dry season farming. They did a lot of that. So you had continuous yield. You couldn't tell the difference now, because as you are starting you are harvesting, you are also replanting. So it became a continuous all-year-round farming.
So we have the assurance that
this is what is going on. That is what is bringing down the food price. Can you imagine the food price from 39% down to 10%? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, many people say this is pen and paper.
No, I'm telling you what the statistics people. The statistics. Yeah. They go out and talk to the people, consumers, and all that. So there is figure. You can't doubt these figures because they exist. I go to market myself. Anytime I'm on television, I tell them that I went to market, because I live next door to Taco Market. So I always go there to check all these things. So I go and start speaking on television.
Okay.
I used to buy tomato 18,000 a basket. I bought it yesterday 4,500.
It might even go.
Pepper I bought 12,000. Now pepper I bought 4,000.
Yeah.
Now I'm telling you what I experienced.
That's why a lot of people have attributed this to seasonal harvest. Except now that we are talking about
we're doing all year
farming and agricultural practice. Again, how impactful do you think this has been, given the fact that we are yet to attain that level of effective monitoring and supervision of past system on our economy?
Well, supervising and monitoring price system is a different thing from NBS doing what they are doing. NBS has a system of people that they ask these questions divided by different classes. They are in buckets and classes. the items that they use, where they get the information. So I'm not going to doubt their integrity because they have this established, verified by World Bank, and their system makes, But whether you want to get a price system within particular commodities is a different story.
Okay. Now, one of the major significant reforms of 2025, when you're talking about Central Bank of Nigeria, was the continued liberalization of the foreign exchange market, contrary to expectations. What do we expect in the year 2025, especially now that you have affirmed that with the introduction of the Dangote refineries and other refineries that are coming into the country? You use an example of the children waiting anxiously to buy stocks of Dangote stocks from the capital market. What should we expect going forward?
Now the thing is this. Just use just another example. Dangote says that even his capitalization, his target is $200 billion. The revenue that government will get from his business alone by 2030 is looking at about $21 billion. Now, government doesn't get $21 billion a year today. If they are getting $21 billion, multiply it by 1,500, that will be almost $40 billion naira, trillion. They will not be borrowing this money. Do you understand? Because when you add that to the 36 trillion that they have collected, then you see that they don't need to borrow any money. The one company is saying that they could be getting that kind of money, and it's already have only 2 items contributing 6%. So what you are going to see is that more and more forex will enter into the fray of central bank that will enable them to control to have more accretion to our reserve, and then to stabilize the currency, to continue to strengthen that naira value, strengthen. And even more, Nigeria is going to be selling crude, or may have even started selling crude in other currencies other than dollar, like Chinese yuan, Indian rupees. And that's what is angering this man, Donald Trump. Saudi Arabia, you really believe, has started selling in this. And yet, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, those Arab Gulf states, where the people of America went to in 1974 and said, let's do a deal. Instead, I will scatter this place. Let's do a deal. I'll give you protection, and then you have crude sold in dollar and bought in dollar. That's what they call the petrodollar. But America reneged now because they are no longer sure of their security. What this Trump is doing, they are confused. So they have run to, Saudi Arabia has run to Pakistan for nuclear protection and do a do or die deal. So they are now organized themselves. Germany is no longer, they are not sure what they are doing with NATO. Not Cameroon. Canada have, said, and I'm not sure now. So people, now, what's the other one that they want to take their land? Denmark. They say they are not sure. It's when our own member wants to take over Greenland, our land. And in fact, Britain is saying, no, send people, let's send all the NATO people from all the countries to Greenland, so that America knows that we are all here. All the NATO are here. So if you want to take it over, that's the end of NATO. You understand? So there's a geopolitics that is making us look elsewhere. But in terms of, and of course, our crude price is going to go down for 2026, less than $50. And that means government will get less money from crude, but you get more money from refining. So what it means is that we have to focus on import substitution, focus on removing this export dependency, focus on increasing refining and productive processing in the country, our raw material, so that we can have control, more revenue to government, more jobs to the people. Anytime you send any raw material out, you're exporting jobs. And you're importing poverty. It's poverty that we're importing. Any barrel of crude you sell, export abroad, is jobs that you're exporting. Otherwise, why don't you give the crude to Dangote to refine, to all these other local refiners to refine, so that they can create jobs and pay tax to government? So that is the argument against poverty. That is the real argument against what we are seeing, disconnect between paper growth and the real people not getting jobs. poverty widening, and then you have people on the streets.
Okay. Let me take you back a little before we round off on the tax reforms. You know, on the part of the impact of the tax reforms on the individuals, particularly the working segment of the society, that is the public servants. There's this report where public servants have expressed worries that the reforms has come to increase poverty on them. I don't know how true is that, and whether the government can have a revisit on the tax reform so that they can be fully exempted. How possible do you think that can be?
Well, I think we should be talking about increasing the threshold. Because when you say 800,000 naira is threshold, that's nonsense. Because 8,000 naira, 800,000, whatever it is only 66,000 naira a month.
And a lot of civil servants are
which is even below the minimum wage. So why don't you take it up to 100,000 naira a month, which is 1.2 million naira threshold?
Yeah.
Then at least you know that the minimum wage people and those people that just get a little bit that are in. So it's not rocket science. There are other ways you can get money from these people other than just pinching their pocket. You know, so that's what I'm not happy about that threshold. That threshold is not going to work.
But do you think that the government can have a revisit?
No, it's organic. Hey, you can anytime you can amend law anytime. They can amend it even by the end of this year. They can even start a process of amending it.
Okay.
They don't think that you are going to abandon everything. You take it one at a time. I think they should face that minimum wage thing. First of all, I think that they should increase minimum wage from 70,000 to something reasonable. And then part of the reasonableness is to increase the threshold to maybe 1 million or 1.2 million, so that you are giving effective cover to the base of your pyramid. That base is very important because they are the ones having extended family, having to share. You know, the burden is too much. 70% of the minimum thing they get goes to food. And then look at, it's unbelievable, 140 million, 139 million people suffering multiple poverty. It's unbelievable.
All right, going forward.
It's the starting point. That's what I would say is the starting point.
To increase the threshold.
Yeah, both the minimum wage and the threshold. The threshold doesn't make sense.
This would be a very
So you are going to be pitching their pocket again. People that you are giving 70,000, you are going to, and the 70,000 times 12 is 840,000 or something like that, and it's higher than that. You're still going to be pinching their pocket.
Okay, in 2026, what should we expect generally on the economy of Nigeria?
If the budget doesn't get sorted out, this thing that they're doing, we cannot go to 2027 with $64.8 when the prices will be around $50.
What should they go?
Because if they don't sort it out, bring this thing down to 55 or something down, what you are going to have is far worse than what you are having last month. This problem you had last month will be nothing compared to what you will see in the next 9 months. 9 months will be dog eat dog. Because you are in an election year where the priority is get money, get this money, get this money. It's no longer who is the contractor that you collected money from. You collected upfront money from him. You collected money to give him contract. Then he borrowed money to pay you, borrowed money to do the work, and then he's waiting forever for 3 years, 2 years for you to pay. And meanwhile, look at the debt, 35% interest from bank. 60% per month times 12, 72% from microfinance banks. Then the loan sharks are doing 10% a month, 120%. That is the environment where they will borrow money to give to officers in advance, to do the contract, and then to come and sit down to wait for payment. When you know that this year, only politically motivated payments are going to be passing through. It's going to be fire.
All right.
In 9 months' time.
All right, thank you so much. And with that advice, we have come to the end of today's edition of Business and Economy. Prof, we have a lot of questions, but time will not permit us. And I'm of the opinion that if we invite you again, we'll see you on the program.
Thank you.
All right, the analyst we have been speaking with has been a professor of development economics. And he is no other but Professor K. Ife. Professor Ife, we thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, and to you out there, our esteemed audience, we sincerely want to appreciate your time with us on today's edition of the program. Stay with us for more of our programming. I am ILE Emeje saying good day to you.